So today, really, we want to highlight you, your business, your
Okay.
story, how you got to where you're at,
Mhm.
and then how us, our listeners, or whoever can help take that to the next level, right?
Sure.
Because we're all here to build each other up as much as we can, and so we wanted to highlight you. We chose you of one of the I think there's 8 that we chose total to highlight and to really put out there to the world and get you to step up. So why don't we just start with your story?
Sure. So my name is Aaqib. I'm the founder of Pong. I am a serial entrepreneur, and this is my second company. Prior to this, I had a different company called Midwest Immersive, and it was a virtual reality, augmented reality company. And we just basically get hired by big corporations like Adidas, Nike, Verizon, Progressive, and a lot of big brand names to help them on the innovation side of things. So I had started this as a VR AR company, and we slowly evolved into doing other innovative things, such as working with 3D projection mapping. Then we got into LED lighting control. And one thing led to another, and I got really interested in LED technology. And that's part of the Light Pong founding story because Light Pong is entirely LED based. But prior to that, I'd been in startups and I'd started I'd been an early employee in another company that was in the live streaming space before live streaming was like what it is right now. And the funny thing about that is that company eventually pivoted because our core business model had already been imitated by Facebook and so on and so forth. But many years later, I noticed that some of the marketing campaigns that I had designed for this live streaming company started to be used by Facebook as theirs. And I'm like, I came up with that.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. So nothing that I can verify or point fingers at,
Right.
but I'm pretty sure that they saw our stuff and created something similar.
I mean, that's what Facebook does. So it absolutely tracks.
Exactly.
So that led you to Light Pong now, huh?
Yes. I started Light Pong about a year ago. I would say about 13 months ago at this point. And we've had a lot of success with it. I mean, we've seen almost 50 million views across social media, which is kind of a big deal. We raised $150,000 on Kickstarter, which puts us in the top 2% of all Kickstarters of all time. And we've been featured in a lot of amazing publications like Mashable, Yahoo Finance, Gizmodo, etc.
Absolutely. So tell us about Light Pong.
Sure, Light Pong is a completely crazy new way to play video games. And I say that because it's the type of product that has never existed before, and a lot of people need to see it in order to understand what it is. But to describe it a little bit, it's LED lights inside of a tube with controllers on either end. And it's floppy, it's goofy, it's fun, and we say that it's a really fun new game system that allows you to play games at parties and events, and you can pretty much take Light Pong with you anywhere you go, you know.
Right.
And also the type of thing that you don't need a screen to enjoy. Yes, there is a companion app, but the companion app is purely there to control an assisted device. But on a playability perspective, for most people, for the most part, you are largely going to be off your screen, and that's what makes it really exciting as well.
What made you come up with the concept of taking screens away?
Right. I mean, the idea, it's not that the idea of taking screens away that fascinated me, that was a byproduct. It was the ability to create something completely new and different that people hadn't seen before that fascinated me and made me want to take this journey, right? I think that for the most part, we see versions of other things in our world or 16 versions of the same thing. You know, social media, for example, has evolved again and again and again from the time of MySpace and Friendster and Hi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an iteration of previous things that had existed. In the case of Light Pong, to me, it was something that was brand new and hadn't existed before. Yes, I mean, we've seen LEDs, we've seen games, but in this package and in this presentation, it was one of a kind. And that's what fascinated me about the entire concept. And that's what keeps me going on a daily basis. Ultimately, I think that as human beings, it's our prerogative to do something unique and leave our mark on the world, which is why we wake up every day and do what we do. And this was the most unique way for me to do that.
Absolutely. What stage are you guys in?
We are, it's a difficult question to answer because there's multiple answers
Always
to
is.
this.
Always is, right?
If there's investors listening, then we are in the pre-seed stage. If there's consumers listening, then we are in the stage where we're going from prototype to mass production, and we intend to be in the market this coming fall.
Oh, good timing.
Yeah.
Good timing.
Now we are at the phase where we're, when we first built Like Pong and what you might have seen on social media and what we recommend, what everybody sees on social media right now as we speak, are prototypes that we built last October. Now, since we built them, so last October or last September even, before the Kickstarter. Now, in the electronic space, once you go from prototype to mass production, and in our case, we built these prototypes using off-the-shelf components. To go to mass production, we had to take at least 5 to 6 steps back and redesign everything from scratch, but now using custom components, something that can be produced on a factory line. And that is a significant step and a challenging step because it's very iterative. There's a lot of people involved. There's mechanical engineers, there's electronical engineers, there's a factory, there is design and just usability. So it's a very, very interesting process of fine tuning and changing and trying to come up with that design that works for everybody.
Absolutely. And once you guys go to mass, kind of what's your overall goal with Light Pong? Obviously, it's going to be a step. It always is. You're a serial entrepreneur. So where do you have this vision? Where do you see it going?
Well, we are playing in the retro and arcade games market. And there's other players in this market too. Like, we don't have any direct competition, but the customer, the consumer is going to be making decisions on other products and against our product in certain cases, right? So those types of products are, retro and arcade games such as Arcade 1-Up, which is a really, really cool arcade game system that you can buy for your home. And it has all the classic arcade games like Pong and Mortal Kombat and Mario even. And I love those guys. Those guys are great. But the consumer is going to be selecting between us and them, right? The other sort of competitor here is card games in this case. So you think about Cards Against Humanity, you think about another big card game that I can't recall off the top of my head right now.
Let's go with Uno, because
Uno.
my kids are learning how to play Uno. So we're going to go with Uno.
Exactly. And Uno is actually having its resurgence right now. Or even board games, you're thinking Scrabble, Catan, those types of games. So it's considerations in that space, but ultimately we want to be a big player in this space. That market is worth about $20 billion right now, and it's projected to be worth about $40 billion in the next 5 to 7 years. So we want to play in that market, and we want to keep our name in that market. And right now, into 2022, our first run from the manufacturer is going to be approximately 3,000 products, 3,000 units. But we want to be able to do 15,000 next year, 30,000 the following, and just be a consistent staple in the gaming market that people are like, oh yeah, Light Pong, everybody knows what that is. And we want to turn Light Pong into a household name that everybody knows and speaks about, just like you do about Cards Against Humanity, Catan, and all these other games.
What do you see the market, like who's the initial market to get Light Pong? Is it us who are in our 30s and our nostalgia and that's what we want to do? Mm-hmm. Or is it, us, 15, 20 years ago in college playing drinking games?
Yeah, interesting question.
Or kids.
Or kids. I guess there's children.
There is children out there, but I don't know.
We found that, there is really no age demographic that doesn't enjoy Light Pong. But the people that tend to buy Light Pong are people like you guys, between the ages of 25 to 44, equally male and female, largely consider themselves casual gamers, might have played video games when they were younger, but probably think that video games have become too complex of late and just don't bother with it, or are avid video gamers and just want this as a way to connect with people who aren't video gamers, but still would have fun with it. And we see that the second largest audience is actually under 18. So it is kids who see this as a fun way to get into gaming, but that is about 30% of our audience so far.
So I almost see like seeing it and seeing different videos and stuff from my standpoint, just having a newborn is like developmental things. So it's developing a ton of hand-eye coordination for young kids and understanding that. And I almost feel like in some sort of educational platform, it'd be awesome to see, okay, yeah, we evolved Light Pong now as a game, a fun way to develop this hand-eye coordination, develop, understanding your rights and lefts, different stuff like that. Like, I think it'd be huge in a very, very young generation as well. Now, granted, the nostalgia, like you talked about, I mean, that plays a big factor, and I like that. I'm a big fan of that, but I think there's just such a big market, and there's so many ways that it can be portrayed. I think it's awesome. Yeah,
I think you hit it on the head, Ryan. In fact, there's a lot of educational plays that I actually haven't mentioned just yet. So firstly, even in terms of what you were talking about, beyond the hand-eye coordination education, there's also therapeutic use cases. So we've had people reach out to us and say, oh, we want to use this for autism therapy. We want to use this for PTSD therapy. So there's certainly educational therapeutic aspects of it there, right? But even beyond that, we have created Light Pong to be an open platform, which means that if you are learning how to code, then you can use Light Pong to learn how to code. And unlike creating a game for the iPhone or for the PlayStation 5 or any other platform right now, creating games on Light Pong is going to be much, much easier and simpler. So what Roblox has been able to do and create a platform for people to just continue to create their own content within it, we are also going to be doing that on the education side. So we're going to be putting out a ton of content on how to create games, and it's going to be largely marketed towards developers who don't know how to code, and they're learning how to code for the first time using our interface. So we're very excited about that. And we see it as having essentially a long tail and a short tail. Like, we think that the short tail is going to be people who see this as a drinking game, as a partying game, as a fun family game, But we see that in the long tail, what happens in the gaming market is what keeps things alive for a very long time is its community and its ability to mod and try different things. And that's what keeps it fresh, right? When someone else creates a version of something that you have already tried 100 times, and that drives your curiosity to try it and share it and continue to come back to it as evolutions happen. So that's what we feel like is going to keep the product alive for much longer than us just creating a closed source version of it and controlling what can and cannot be done with it. So it's a gift from nerds to party nerds.
To party nerds. Is that your tagline?
I love that.
A gift from nerds to party nerds.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So I'm just curious about,
my
you said
way
you were
as a nerd of connecting with people at parties without conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know how to talk to this girl. You want to play a game?
You want to play a game?
I love it though. I mean, that builds like community, it builds competition, it builds like a little banter back and forth. Like it kind of bridges that. The light sort of bridges that between people.
Right.
Like you don't need to talk. You just need the light.
Right, exactly.
I love it.
Point, right? There's this interesting conversation that I had last week while I was at a pitch event in North Carolina. And someone was discussing with me how light is such an integral part of our lives and how we take it for granted. And yes, we are communicating through light very passively, but not actively like Light Pong is. And if you think about traffic lights, like they're constantly communicating to you what you need to do. Or if you think about the lights on your modem or on your computer, like I'm sure you look around you, there's multiple lights that are communicating with you at this point, but they're very passive. And what we're doing with Light Pong is just taking a passive medium of communication and turning it into something that's active. And then you ask the question of like, okay, well, how far can you actually take this thing? And then I respond by saying, well, how far can you take text on a page? You can take it pretty far, and it's just up to the creativity of the creator to see how far you can take it. And some of the things that we're very excited about at Like Pong is really like how deep the stories that you can tell are. Like, can we create a game that is like a tower defense game? Or can we create a Super Mario type game in there? Or can we create a car racing game? And can we get you to emotionally connect with these lights enough to want to defend your tower or to win the princess? So right now we've only showcased the tip of the iceberg with these really simple games. But what we're very excited about exploring are these more complex story-based games that really allow you to play for not just 2 minutes, but for 2 to 3 days, so that you can continue and keep playing. That's what we're very excited about.
Absolutely. What are you guys looking for? Obviously, you just had a pitch competition, so that's part of it. But what's your ask? What do you need help with to really get to a point where you want to be with?
Right now we are actively fundraising. So we are raising an angel investor round for our pre-seed stage hardware company. And with any startup, your constant battle is your bank account. So
Always.
For us, any introductions to someone who might consider investing or even providing feedback and has connections to investors might be great. And I feel like this is a cliche thing to say, but I feel like we've truly figured out every aspect of this problem except for the funding part of it. And we are constantly fundraising, at least from investors, and we keep getting good checks in. So it's not that we're going to be going down anytime soon, but we do need the additional funds to continue raising and continue building as we go, at least all the way up to October.
Do you have an amount within that fundraising goal that you're kind of looking to hit, or this amount will get us to our mass production of 15,000 next year, however that might be? Do you have that kind of standard?
So we're actively raising. So we to date have raised about $550,000, and we're raising another 300 right now. So we are looking to do that from professional angels, friends and family, and anybody in the community who might be interested in participating. Yeah.
Okay. Do you, and I see, kind of on your guys' Kickstarter site here and the project site, are you still doing the same reward chart, the pledge, the amount, and just those kind of included perks along with those?
Well, not exactly, because the investors that we're looking to raise money from at this point are angel investors who are writing bigger checks. So we may consider the perks if we were to go to a equity crowdfunding route, which is something that I've been considering. But the best way would be through, and I mean, not necessarily the best way, but equity crowdfunding is something that I'm thinking about, and we may include those perks as well, where we just open it up to the community and say anybody who wants to invest, go to our WeFunder or our Start Engine page and just invest. But it's not a decision that I've committed to as of this conversation.
Yep.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But if anybody is listening and would like to reach out to me, the best way to connect would be, on Twitter, it's Aaqib, which is ITSAAQIB, or LinkedIn. You can just look up Light Pong and you'll find me. My name is a very complex one, so.
Absolutely, and we'll plug you as much as possible. Yeah. We'll, with this podcast episode, we'll plug all your socials, websites, anything that you need. We'll have the marketing team reach out and ask you, and then once we get this cut up, we'll what's this release date, so then you can blast it on all your socials and everything like that as well. Yeah. And we're going to do the exact same thing.
Absolutely.
Cool.
In terms of the podcast, because we'll follow up and tell you more about ourselves, but we always like to do the podcast first, so that way we don't entice people to say certain things. What are some final things that you wanted to say? Anything important or last messages that you want audience to know about Light Pong?
If anybody's listening to us, please follow us on social media. That's a fantastic currency for us in the digital age. So a follow, a like, a share, that goes a long way. And if you are listening, then shoot us a DM and we will 100% respond back to you. We respond back to every DM, every comment, everything that's not against and insulting of us.
I was going to say everything. No, there's got to
They're really nice.
be. Right.
Yeah, we love social media that way.
That's fair. Well, we appreciate your time and everything that you're doing. Look forward for the journey, and we'll make sure to blast everything and let you know.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate the time. Thanks for having me on this podcast.
Yeah, no problem. Have a great day.
Take care, folks.
Bye.
Nice to meet you all.
care.
Bye-bye now.
You as well.
The preceding program was sponsored by Black Mammoth. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Black Mammoth. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Black Mammoth website, www.blackmammoth.com. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions and securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice due to various factors including changing market conditions. The information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up-to-date, Black Mammoth do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature and is provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results.